hey to everyone who's watching this video now. I'm welcoming you to episode 6 of the Inspirational Conversations, the podcast by OneMindZone. I am Jogile Dambrauskaite, certified holistic health coach at OneMindZone, and my mission with this project is to show other human beings how to live more mindfully, healthier, free of stress and doubts, in more positivity in your life. Once a month, I'm having a chat interview with mindfulness, alternative health experts, and other strong professionals that support personal growth and self improvement and willing to inspire other people as well. For 1 year, we are spending most of our time at home in never ending lockdowns. And this is a perfect chance for us to create new, healthier habits, learn new things, and enjoy ourselves. And this is why we are going to speak today about healthy home cooking habits. I would like to present you João Lourenço, the chef for 7 years, originally coming from Portugal, living currently in Paris, and running a catering company that conciliates with private chef activities and food consulting. He also started his YouTube channel, which called Step by Step, where he's showing how to cook very amazing dishes in very easy way. And I'll put the link below in the description of my YouTube channel to all of his channels, so you can check yourself afterwards as well. So hello, João. Thank you
Hello,
so
Yogile.
much for joining me today.
Thank you too for inviting me. It's very nice to be able to tell you some of my advices and opinions about cooking and about food in general.
Is the first time when I tried your food when you cooked, this was something like around maybe 4 years ago or so in Berlin, the time when you were doing the lunch brunch on the weekends in a beautiful place in Mitte. And I think I fell in love immediately from the beginning on, because that time I was already vegetarian, and this was super amazing combination of the stuff. And I was amazed about the whole variety, the simplicity, your style. It was a thing love from the beginning on. And also in the years after, when I was visiting you and your boyfriend in Paris, and I had a chance to eat this amazing food when you were cooking at home at yours. And that time I was vegan already, and I was again was just amazed about everything what you do. And yes, and lately we also had a chance to go on holidays, all of us together with our partners,
Yeah,
and we were all the time amazed about you doing the food shopping in such a unique way, like not over exaggerating with the products, and looking always for the ecological stuff. And again, the whole combination and so on and so on is never ending inspiration for me and my partner. And I chose you because I see you the way how you cook, and uh, I I see so much patience, so much focus, so much the feeling, the attitude, and your style. And I think this is so important for other people as well to learn these things, especially now. And
yeah.
so tell me, how did you become passionate about cooking, and what made you decide to become a chef?
So I can say that I always loved to eat. I guess this was the beginning of everything. But there was a small issue, is that I liked so much to eat when I was a child that I became obese in my early adolescence. And that was, I think, an event that marked this whole process, because despite the no filter back then when I was a child, right? Because we're not like attempting in what we eat and how we eat,
No.
if we don't have the right steps to follow. Um, I ended up in this. And there was one day that basically, I had, like, as every child, like checkout consultations, and we went to one with my mom, and there was a nurse that told my mom that basically if I wouldn't change my eating habits, so this was around like 14 years old, 13, I would have soon serious problems and compromise my health and my life. And I think for a child was kind of, very, was said in a very abrupt way. And I just changed from that point on, but not in a correct way. Like, I think I can say I entered in an eating disorder, and this lasted for 2 years. And I just came out of it by, psychotherapy and nutrition consultations. But what actually made this change totally is that I took the decision to cook myself everything and leave it like that, And I can say that was a very successful attempt from my side to leave this problem, but also to guide me through my life from this point on. Was not by that point that I became a chef, but I can say this was the event that marked this period, because it was always a bug in my head telling me that actually I enjoyed it, like I enjoyed to make combinations, to transform food, to basically change all this with my life and with the life of the others, because I also understood as a young person that this changed other people's moments, like that there was an act that we could share, and actually that if you would do it in an healthy way, you can actually also change other people's views in general.
Yeah.
And so this came later, when I was around, like, I can say 10 years later, like around 24, that I decided to leave the activity I was pursuing, which was to be a psychiatrist. I was studying and I was finishing my studies, and to become a chef. And this is how I became one. So all of this, I can say it was an enchained way that led to that. And I'm quite satisfied so far, even though the beginning might be a bit like not the best way to change a life, but we should integrate it as it is. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, what did you most enjoy about what you do, about your work?
So what I like, I think it's, as I said before, to transform. Like, what brings me satisfaction is to transform a raw matter into a product,
Yeah.
And all that comes with this process leaves a result. And what is fun about cooking is the process and the result, because you have the process, which is like focusing, transforming something into something different.
Yeah.
And the result is to either eating it yourself or having other people eating it, and both experiences are satisfactory.
Yeah.
So you can give pleasure to others, pleasure to yourself, but also have fun with all the process whilst you do that.
Exactly. So it's kind of like multi-angle process and enjoyment, actually, in the end. And what is your food philosophy, and where do you get inspired for your recipes? Because I know that you're cooking from all different countries, from all different inspirations, but
so I think there is, as you say, many inspirations coming from many places. I think there's two main focus. So it's the place where you live, that not necessarily the place, the geographical space, but the place, what surrounds you, like what you see, what you smell, the colors, the tastes that you experience little by little in the place you are.
Yeah.
Because each place has a specific amount of different things, as we know. And also, of course, the other focus is other places that you go, because we don't stay still in a place, we visit other places. And this is obviously a big input that you get when you travel. So you have the inspiration from when you stay still, and you have the inspiration you go out basically of your comfort zone. And this ends up complementing each other. But beside that, I think like other factor is actually, I could say my main inspiration is the seasons, because actually you can just eat differently all year around.
Yeah.
And each season has a vibe, not just from the elements you buy and the different products, but also from the weather, from the mood, from the people. You know, like if it's cold, you want to cook something cozy. If it's warm, you want to cook something fresh. You know, if it's cold, you want it heavy. If it's warm, you want it light. And then all of this comes with colors that are different in between each of them. And I think this for me is a source of big inspiration. I think we are lucky sometimes to be in Europe just for this reason, because there's places, you know, that have a still season like mood all the time. Like if you're in a tropical place, of course, then this is compensated with other factors. I mean, if you're in a tropical place, there's dozens of things anyway, so this inspiration would come from there. But if you're in a place that has very defined seasons, you know, like there's winters, spring, summer, and autumn, like it changes all along. And I think this quite influences the way I cook, because despite me using seasonings from many places, because there are things that you know you don't need to buy excessively every week. The main thing, of course, are vegetables. And vegetables are what it's around you during each time of the year. So this will be the main centralization of what I do, and then the rest is kind of complementary.
Okay. You're cooking always at home, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits of cooking at home? So the ones who is not cooking
I
should
think
know.
For me, cooking at home will basically allow you mainly to control all the process. You know, you control where the things come from because you get them. You control the hygiene, which is also important. You control how you do it, so what you cook it with, you know, like how, like which kind of processes, like if you fry it, if you steer it, you know, like many different things. And you also control the result, like, and if you know, like have a specific taste, you can of course guide the meal towards your taste. It's nice to get surprised from outside, but I think cooking at home allows you to control all of this, and this is why it's beneficial.
Yeah. And it's also putting yourself into new habit as well.
Yeah.
Learning something new and putting yourself in a new habit and knowing what you're putting inside in you.
Exactly.
Not only trusting the third.
Yeah, no, I think most important, as I said, I mean, I'm myself a control freak, but even if you're not, it's kind of an important, you know, like all of us can make exceptions and, you know, like go eat out once in a while. It's all good. I like to experience restaurants, especially out of the pandemic when they exist.
Yeah.
But nowadays, what's really important, it's to control what you eat in the most of the time you have. So I think the only way that you can do that is actually at home, because as said, you do the shopping, you cook. This is a controlled environment all the time. So,
are there ways to make cooking easier or more fun for people who don't necessarily enjoy cooking?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that it all starts with the shopping. So you need to have fun with your shopping. I mean, shopping is most seen as like a boring experience, okay? Like, I have to do another shopping for the week. It's like everything. And so I would say that you have to dose your shopping, okay? So it would help to go to smaller surfaces and not like a tiring big surface like a supermarket. We're going to talk after about I guess about this in more detail, but like for now, about the experience itself, I think, you know, like a place where you can guide yourself very easily, where you know where the things are placed, that stimulates you by how it looks also. Like if it's, of course, if the vegetables or other products are better, you know, like better looking, you feel attracted to,
of course,
this. If they're not huge piles of mono-shaped products, it's a totally different thing. And also, like, the thing is, after the shopping, which for me, yeah, as I said, it would be get a nicer experience if you privilege these small shops and vendors and preferably interact with them.
yeah,
It's actually what you do then after. And there's no better way to have fun than to do fun processes, you know?
yeah,
Like most of people, I would dare to say, they have a determined way of how they cook one thing. I'm going to talk about the vegetables because I think this is the main problem in general about like cooking, because people have an idea of vegetables that is not, I would even say it's old-fashioned, that they think one thing has to be cooked in one way. You know, a carrot has to be cooked like that, a kale has to be cooked like this.
like old school beliefs from the
yeah
from
and and the way to have fun with that is actually to understand that each of these things can be cooked in multiple ways. And from the moment you understand this, of course, after a bit researched, because it's not not all comes from like the air. It's gonna be surely more fun, because you do with the same things that are might not be too many, you know, different combinations. So in this sense, this will increase the experience, I think. And also people can eat in a healthier way, because variety is also health. And a palette, even if predefined, can be different each time.
Like, you know, for me, I think I not always enjoy the cooking, or maybe in the beginning, like years before, it was more like necessity to survive, you know, or something, because, or just in between working and then making yourself fast, but really not enjoying or not having enough time to enjoy. And since I'm on the plant-based diet, I'm really enjoying it, because I like so much to see the final result, you know. Because if you go to some vegan restaurants and stuff, I mean, I'm always amazed what you can get from
So few, you know.
From so few ingredients. And if you read, like, oh my god, how can you get this taste from this? And for me, it was so exciting to just try myself to get this final result of the thing. So I don't know, with this whole plant-based moving to this diet, I got this excitement, you know, again, and like to really enjoy cooking and the stuff. And also, I think when you watch like the videos on the internet, you also get excited just from seeing that how easy actually are some recipes to do. And maybe people don't even understand or know that some things is really easy to do. You don't even need like special stuff or like a big kitchen for that, you know. And what advice do you have for people who find it difficult to eat healthily?
So as you said now, I think what they could do to make it easier is actually to use what they use the most, the phone. So you have a phone, you have probably social media, or if you don't have, you have YouTube. And this is actually an easy way to basically reconvert yourself. So if you think you're not the person that has kind of patience to do these all things, if you think that is difficult, if you think things are not working because you tried sometimes, I think now, especially after the confinements that we have, there's so many videos in 2 or 3 minutes that explain you fast how to do nice and easy and healthy things, that there's actually an overload of information. But you can basically search things that you like and transform them into healthy, easy, fast things to do. And in this sense, this is the advice I have. Use what you have around you. You have a phone or a computer, use it, because this is a way that you can reach this. And I think it's actually rather a benefit than a negative point of social media.
Yeah.
Because you can reach to things that before you could never know, like there's every kind of people doing it, from real established people to really amateur people, and this is the fun of it. And in a couple of clicks you're gonna find an easy way of doing a nice cooked meal.
Yeah, and even without any experience, too much experience of doing it.
Yeah.
And we were speaking about the fun in doing food shopping. So, what are some common mistakes consumers make when doing the food shopping that leads to unhealthy habits?
Yeah, I would say the most common mistake is to buy processed foods, every kind, like you want to make it fast and you want to cut steps because everything is too fast paced.
Yeah.
And I think in this sense, you get basically in a direction towards an unhealthy lifestyle in what concerns cooking, because this is the beginning of all kinds of problems. Because as I said, especially for me that like to transform the raw matter into a product, if this is already cut, this will also take the fun out of the cooking.
Yeah.
And then for you, it's just like mixing pre-made products that have already a predefined taste that you don't control. And I think this is a common mistake because people associate, as we said before, lack of time and overload of work with lack of time to care about food. But I think we have to understand also once for all that eating, it's the only repeated process that we do during all days of our life. If we have access to it, and if this is something that you're gonna all the time put inside your organism, it should rather be controlled than not controlled, because there's consequences coming from that.
Yeah.
And the consequences are not just visual, like you don't get just fat or just disfigured, but you also get many health problems,
of course,
from every kind of thing possible, not just cancers, but also problems with the heart, problems with the kidneys, problems with the skin, problems with every kind of thing, locomotion. So in this sense, I think this is a very common mistake that looks innocent because to whichever supermarket you go, you have the shelves full with these products. So you think
crazy.
it cannot harm you that much if it's everywhere, but it can, it's like non-considered, it's not considered a drug, but you know what, sometimes
it is.
Some things are, and it's just softly commercialized as something that is not what it is. Basically, it's like a fake marketing on this is good, this makes good. Like nowadays we don't have so much attention anymore in the TV, but for decades people were watching in the TV that pre-made things were good for them. So they were believing it because this was the source of information that they have, and in this sense I think it's like time to change this, because now you have other sources of information. You can actively search yourself what are the maleficence of many things. And in this sense, I would rather recommend, as we said before, other shopping experiences. Go to places that don't offer just these kind of things, because the less they offer these things, the more you feel tempted to buy them. So in this sense,
it's a matter of education actually for the people. And it's good that more and more people now speaking about these things and teaching other people. And so maybe slowly we're gonna shift to another way of thinking and cooking more at home.
So I would say that there's four, like, people, just because I think this is important in the talk, because I think many people will identify with like the four kinds that I'm gonna mention. The ones are the people that that say that the root of the problem is time, like, and I think those they should, when they shop, they just should choose these combinations that are easy and the other problem, I would say, it's like working from far from home when
Yeah.
they don't have hypotheses. I'm just saying this because I think, you know, like people will always have an argument to say they buy these fast things for a reason, or they eat out in restaurants without caring, which is also another thing that can lead to unhealthy habits, is like the fact that you work far from home.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't have time, I have to eat what is around me, you know, like, and in this sense, then for those, I would say, if you work far, it will cost you some extra moments, but for sure you're gonna have dinner when you come home. So when you have this dinner, just make an extra portion for the day after,
Exactly.
and take it to work. And you avoid this because you will control once more what you do, you know. And the lack of knowledge, as we said before, the phones are there, the computer are there. Take one day, it won't take too much of your life, but you can inform yourself about some easy recipes, some processes, some even information about things that you used to eat that you might think, does this too good to me or not, you know, like if it's processed, you should always do that, to watch the ingredients, all of this. And the taste, if they don't know, like they think things taste bad, you have to just guide it towards your taste, you know. You like spicy, put it spicy. You like with different kind of kick, you have to see which things will bring you to this kick. You can search even like a baby on Google, like what would make me like, no, no, no. I'm sure you're gonna get answers, you know, like it's about informing and actually enhancing your own experience, like to make it good for you. And this cannot have a negative outpoint, you know, like it cannot be that making things good to you make you lose time. No, it's always a positive.
Exactly. And it's also, as you say, like developing taste. The taste is developing through the trying new things, you know. Of course, if you're gonna stay all the time on the same taste, you not even know how the other things tasting. Are they good or are they bad?
Yeah.
And also, what also about the people who's not having like a time, or they say as a excuse of or working too far from home, or they are super busy. It's just also they can just dedicate one day in a week, for example, on the weekend, or it could be Saturday or Sunday, for a couple of hours, and just do the preparations of your food for the whole week.
They have there's also another technique, is not to do every day because people might be tired, but take one day in the weekend, 3 hour, and you do set meals, or at least preparation to assemble them, or
exactly.
you know,
and it's like it's not that hard actually to prepare. Maybe it's a bit of vegetables of this, broccoli, this, that, and then you can maybe mix yourself every day something your Tupperware and go to work, and you're still gonna eat healthy and nutritional food, and knowing from where it comes from.
Exactly.
So there are no excuses here.
No. At all.
What would you make as a quick, healthy dinner option if you would have 30 minutes of preparation time?
Okay, so I have different kinds of advice. For example, for omnivore people, I could say that you could basically, what I would do in general is either, if you live near the sea, of course, I would always eat fresh fish, preferably raw if it's very fresh. So I would do shirashi. I do it every week, even with my partner. It's something that you do in 25 minutes. So you basically need to do rice, season it. You have raw fish. You have some raw vegetables from the season that you use. Like this varies, of course, during the year. And you can add or not a condiment if you have, like that you, of course, made before, or that you got in a sourced place that it's nice. And then if you don't live near the sea and you still want to eat something that includes meat, I would say that you can do, for example, some soba noodles with like a steamed chicken. And I usually have a concentrate that I do myself before, like that keeps me for a month. That is very easy. And I dilute then a broth on it, but you can also just dilute water if you don't have time. And all of this would also take 25 minutes. Also with, of course, blanched or raw vegetables, which also, I mean, to blanch takes basically 3 minutes. Like you make the water boil and you put it on a vegetable, and if not, you can steam them with the chicken if you don't want to lose nutrients. So this is the omnivore options that I do in my like 20-minute thing when I don't have much time and when I still want to eat healthy. And then if, for example, I want to do a plant-based meal, a vegan one, I can do, for example, dal with depending which beans. Like
True.
I usually have either mung beans or lentils because you don't need to soak. And you know, I have some seasonings, of course. These things you have to pre-buy, but you can make it very simple with like garlic and olive oil and coriander seeds and some herbs. That's it.
Yeah.
And this makes it very fast and easy. Of course, if you're not into beans, you can always use rice with other combinations.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a place that has a lot of vegetables, it's always easy. It always should be complemented with some condiment, but maybe based on a nut like peanut butter or tahine or something else that you can always change. Even if you get, you know, the simple version, you can always season it with some spice or some oils. It depends. So these three kind of my three options to 20 minute, 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, you mentioned the dal thing. For me, it's also what I found out that a lot of like, for me, the fastest thing I think should be to do is the curry, like, I don't know, chickpea curry or something, you know, which is like just like it's already like, okay, the chickpeas or could be beans instead, they already boiled, and it's just you put together, you boil the rice on the side, and it's the dish is ready. It's true. When you're dining out at the restaurant, what can a person do to make the healthier choices when they check the menu?
So I think it's as said before, nowadays we have like the phone, so it's kind of easy to try to see the image of the place. It always helps to see what kind of things they post, or if they don't have an account on a social
Do you always
network.
check when you go to the place to eat?
Yeah.
And I will start checking it.
I mean, sometimes the place is kind of screaming by itself, you know, so you don't need to understand what they do. Like, I mean, as I worked in restaurants, I kind of have an insight to understand some things that I was not understanding before I worked in this field, you know. Like what kind of kitchen, what they hide, what are not, you know, like these kind of things you kind of make a judge. But most of all, this is the surface, okay? Like for you to discover the surface is like the image of the place, what they advertise that they are. It's kind of important because you see the principles. If this goes in towards like an healthy or at least like that matches with your ideology. But then you have the other side, which is the go deeper in the problem, which is like you have to look at the menu. So you go look at the menu, and first, is the menu big or small? What is this? Is the menu big or small? If it's too big, I would not advise maybe to stay, because if it's too long and too big, it means they need too many things, and too many things might be trouble from the health point of view, but also from the sustainable point of view. Okay. Then it always depends, of course, but like they need also more craft, more people to do the things, assemble and etc., which might also bring us to other side of the question, that if the people, you know, are well paid, if they, you know, like if the food that they give matches the way as they treat the employees. It's always like everything is a big bubble, you know. So then if not, if it's small, you have to see, I mean, if you're searching for something healthy, what are the processes that are behind each dish, you know, if they're mentioned or not, because there's some restaurants that just put the ingredients, and there's others that describe what they do, you know, for example, steamed or fried or and then you see, because as said before, usually places don't have a huge amount of space, so they have to concentrate themselves into a specific method of cooking. You see which methods are persisting in the menu, you know, if it's like something that, you know, if it's stir frying and steaming and boiling, maybe this is more privileged for you than to go to a place that fries everything, or this is kind of what you should do. And also, like, if the desserts, what kind of desserts they are, if you're someone that would like to eat dessert but you don't want to eat also something full of monosaturated lipids, or it's always like, you can also ask these questions yourself to the person if you go and you want to really, if you heard about the place and everybody advises you, but you still have a doubt on if you should stay or not, and even looking to the menu you cannot figure out what it is, you can always come in and understand by the vibe of the people there and what they tell you about the place, if this is a place where you should stay or not. This seems a lot of work, but in the end it's like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's a very good tip, because I didn't think about some specific things you said. Like I think not always I check those with the website of the place.
Yeah, but as I told you, this is something that we are not obliged to know.
Yeah,
because
it comes with the
grow
time.
Going out is like that, and the person advertised like this, and we trust it.
Yeah.
I mean, just actually got the worst experience, because I worked in places, some of them that were advertising as something, and then in the back they were doing something else. Especially in Paris, not wanting to be shitty, but like, it's common here. There's also many good places, but there's also places that pretend to be something that they're not, and then you're like tricked as a customer, which is not nice.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're searching for something specific, you should get that, because you're paying for that. And if money is time for them, it's also for you, especially if it's about eating. Eating is important, and you shouldn't pay for things that make you bad. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go a bit in a different direction. The psychologists believe that cooking and baking are therapeutic because they fit a type of the therapy known as behavioral activation, a treatment for depression and other mood disorders. Could you agree on that?
Yeah. So as I referred before, I think first, definitely, because I think everything that keeps you entertained, and as a result it's beneficial for this kind of problems, because as said, you have the process and the result, and through the process you keep busy, you activate yourself, so you're not like still depressing in the same step, you're like distracted. Okay, like you're distracted, and you're distracted not only in something that will not have an end. You can find yourself having an objective, which is to achieve a dish or to achieve a situation. So if you achieve a situation which is to cook for the others, for example, this is something that will get you satisfaction, because you get pleasure from making other people having a moment. But also, if it's just for yourself, which is also as legit, you get this yourself. And how nice is that, to cook something that as an end result is something that makes you pleasure. So you took time from yourself, and you see that your actions can have actually a good end. And having a good end is something important for someone that is depressed. It's something that gives a meaning to what they do, when actually they feel that they are in a situation that they cannot find this meaning in general in life.
Exactly.
So I think it's definitely good as a therapy, as many other things, not just cooking, for sure. All these processes that have like a process result, it's nice. Like learning music, painting. There's so many things that get this behavioral activation that is getting you slowly out of the well.
Yeah, it's part of the creative activity as well, no? Because you create something new, and then you can improvise there. And it's also, in my view, it's also like this focus, the focus, the awareness what you have while you cook. This is also another type of the mindfulness.
Exactly, you're
practice.
like concentrated. So
it's the same as you do meditation, and then you focus on your breathing or focus on something else.
Every time you have something to have to focus, that you take your attention to somewhere else, and not also just to yourself.
Exactly, spending time with yourself. It's like another type of the meditation with you, because I have noticed that a lot of care goes into the food when you especially cooking, because I've been watching you cooking, and I saw the patience and the awareness and the focus and stuff. And it made me think like, this is really how it works. This is your type of meditation you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
daily.
yeah.
So maybe the ones who is not meditating normally should
Yeah, yeah,
switch to the
yeah. At least
cooking. At least they
alternative.
meditate.
At least they should do that.
No.
Yeah.
um, let's speak a bit more now about the sustainable way of
Yeah.
cooking and the food. And most of us are buying food in the supermarkets, and we don't know exactly where it comes from, all the ingredients, or how it is produced. What do you think of this disconnection between people and their food?
Totally disconnected. So like if you go to supermarket, so basically one main point is that the supermarket doesn't care about you. Okay, like
Yeah.
in general, you, me, whoever, like it doesn't care about the consumer. And this is already the first step for this connection. Like if you're not engaged with the person, like the consumer, you're not gonna approach him, you know, like it's like you'll never know where the things come from. And this is important also because, as I said before, as being a big surface, you just fit everything there. And if you have so many different things fitting together all the time, it's impossible for you to associate, you know, because you just go through, get what you need, and then it's ciao.
Yeah.
And this is a tendency, I mean, that came with capitalism that actually leads to like, you know, self-centerism. Is like we need the money, we want the money. The more people, the more money. The more products, the more money. And this variety is not a synonym of like quality, and is also not a synonym of acknowledgement. So if you don't know where things don't come from, start questioning yourself, because you should know. Like it's important. You're putting things inside your body all the time, so you should know minimally where they come from. And this is just, you know, like the only solution for this is actually to search for other places to get things, and places that you can approach the people. And even if you don't have to have a long talk, I mean, you understand, like, because things are more enumerated, they are proud to say where they come from, you know, because there's also this movement nowadays of counteracting the supermarket. And you have people that explicitly say where things come from, just to assure people that at least they do that, you know. And by doing that, it's an approach that you get with people, and is a connection. And for this, I think it's way more valuable than this other model of disconnecting, because this model is based only on money and profit. And the other model, it's also based on money, of course, like everything in the model we live in, because we live in capitalism. But at least this money is having kind of a backdrop justification, you know. It's kind of like you pay this because it comes from there, it's like this, it brings like that, this product is created like that, you know. So you kind of understand more. And I often, especially in this city where I live in, I often get faced with like supermarket prices that are even more expensive than a small shop, or than or than even you know, bio chain supermarket, which is kind of bizarre, because you know exactly that these products are for sure not the best, and that they're sourced from a place that is producing a lot of things, because it's to go through the whole country, so it cannot be a small place. And in this sense, you cannot understand why this is more, why the price is higher. And this is the thing. Like, I think it's an important
I think there's also this disconnection between the people and the food exists because people don't grow that much food themselves as well, you know, anymore. And this is only about, as you say, just going to supermarket, getting what you need and leaving. Of course, what connection you can have with this food if
you
you
cannot get
don't put
connection.
your hands into the soil.
If I say, if you go also to, you know, because some of them don't live of course, near the countryside, or they don't have time to work actively in producing food. But the minimum, at least, they could do is to go to a place that reminds them of that,
Yeah.
And many of these shops, especially if they're like DIY, if things are dirty, if things are like, in crates and look like what they look, they don't look all round and shiny, but they look like deformed and like, beautiful in their own plurality. At least you kind of get the approach, like, and some of other things, not veggies, but other products that they smell, or, like these kind of things, then you get in these places and you understand. And also if you go to specialized places in things, like it was before the wars in many countries, that you would go to a place and it was the place for that, you go for the place for the veggies, is the place for the veggies, the cheese is the place for the cheese, this was a tendency that got lost in the
was the milk shops.
Yeah, the second half of the 20th century, with this capitalistic approach that the post-war had, that people were like having to prove that finally there was food, there was money, there was consumerism, and people have to offer everything in the same space to limit also the time you go to different spaces, because people were basically told to work more to also recover from these wars. And this was all a loop, it's like, I don't have time because I work more, and then this as the consequence of totally disconnecting from like the food itself. And like I think it's important to know where things are.
Also, disconnecting from the food is also kind of disconnecting from yourself, because you disconnect from that what you put inside in you. So
of course
you become like a stranger to yourself, I guess, at some point.
Obvious consequences, like
from your perspective, what should people look for when buying food?
I think they should look always for things that are simple, okay, like not processed, like raw things first, and then the things that they have to be processed, they should always attempt on the how you call it, the label, and see in which way they're processed, and this you can see through the quantity of like additives and emulsifiers and things like that it has, and which products are actually used. If they're used thousands of products to make something that in your mind it could be made simple, if it's just like a mix of that should be 3 things, and you have it there with like, I don't know, 50 things, then maybe privilege the one that would have 2 or 3 things, even if it's like 50 cents or €1.50 more, because this has a better outcome for you. And also always relate the quantity to what you're going to consume, like you shouldn't waste also. So, I mean, just go for something that that the validity date is matching the date you would eat the thing. And if it's like something that you want to keep for longer, see what could you buy that keep the longest, but also understand that if it's for too long, it will have preservatives. And in this sense, they will also come in the label. So I think, I mean, one way that you can always avoid all of this is minimize all the processed things. Like by having raw matters and keeping your diet more simple, even if varied by the seasonings you give, there's vehicles to season, like spices, herbs, oils, all of this. It's like a mechanism for not buying super processed things, because this is also the reason why, and I think we're going to talk about it better, why processed foods will intervene in a non-sustainable system,
And what is your take on organic food? Are you advocating it?
Yeah, of course. So I mainly use organic food, even for my work, which is also something that I could say that distinguishes me from the rest of like let's say my adversaries in what I do. And I prefer sometimes to earn less money than to not use organic ingredients.
Okay.
Because I think this is important. And also, like, of course, as with everything, I have to say though that organic can also be commercialized and capitalized, and we have to take care of this. Like I privilege everything organic, especially if it's raw matter or if it's like a simplified product. But from the moment also as it's processed and it's capitalized, then this organic starts losing meaning, because this means that it has to be transported, it has to be spread, and because like it needs to preserve, so it has to have something added, even if in small quantities. And in this sense, then when everything is like too massified, because it's a product that can arrive to further and further because it's preserved, then it will have also negative consequences and an impact in the environment, not by the way it's produced, because the veggies and the nuts and all of these oils, all of this is from organic farming, but then is the other process that will not be organic, because you still use a van to transport it, you still use employees in a place to sell it, you still pay a rent in a place, like all of this. It's like an indirect impact in sustainability. So organic food, yes, but not massify it, like, and this is just not happening by making the in-between farmer and consumer less and less. So, privilege like the small spaces that receive directly the things, like avoid too many chains of things. And this is I would say it's my take on organic, like, but of course I defend.
Yeah, of course. And I think the biggest problem is that still the organic food in most of the countries in Europe or everywhere is way more expensive than the regular supermarket food. And
exactly.
I think this is one of the main stops for people to
sure.
consume all of this stuff. And I know that in France it's actually not the case, because
that's the thing. I think I'm lucky in the sense of this approach here, because I think somehow this negative side of them wanting to have like basic things so expensive in general, it makes the biological and organic ones actually have the same level, so you have actually the choice to not go to the others. But in many other places, especially, I mean, where I come from Portugal, or even in Germany, or where you live in Spain, it's not the case, because there are also places that have a very cheaper option compared to the organic, and I mean, some people can just not afford it, and this is as legit. So in this sense, what I would advise, if you really cannot buy organic, is first to really see if you can't, because there's also places that are not chains and are just like little farm vendors. There's markets, like usually in every country in Europe there's a farmer's market somewhere. And in this sense, like if you search sometimes for some of these markets, it might not be the first market you find because it might be expensive, but you might find another one that is less. And even sometimes if you have to go a bit further, think if it would not be worth, because the products will make good to you and also good to the environment. But if this is really not the case and you cannot buy organic at all, I mean, the advice I think I can give is the advices I already gave before, is to simplify the diet, still buy raw things. If you avoid already the processed things, is already better than not, because it will still, for how many, preservant or pesticides things can have, it will still be less than to buy it in its processed form, So yeah.
I also heard the trick that if you buy the vegetables from the supermarkets and this is not organic, that you should just put all of the vegetables in the water and keep it for at least like 1 hour to soak out all of the chemicals.
Okay.
But I don't know if this is really works, because
I mean, there is
some chemicals should be really
they
strong.
are available in some organic shops, especially some deep pesticiders, like you put some drops in the water.
Exactly.
And I think you might not need 1 hour, maybe less, and it will take the things out. And in this sense, maybe if it's not an option, it's something that you buy once for how
but
expensive
it's also not bad idea.
once. and you get that, and at least you have the chance to take these things off.
And you said that you also buying from the small farms, small shops. So what can consumers else can do to support these small businesses more actively?
So I think in an indirect way, just as said before, you privilege them, like you go more and more to them, and this will also be nice for you. And I talk also by myself because I noticed it with the last years that I created a relation with them. So they kind of, they advise me things. I see the offer changing all the time. It's kind of like, it's a trust relation. So this is positive. And for the consumers, I mean, an active step, I think this to start with this, okay? And then if they want to go further and further, it would be nice to, I mean, there's many options. You have, of course, to research in your area, but if you live in the countryside, like, or in a smaller means, there are usually farms that nowadays they sell from the farm directly, okay? Like they have, you remember when we went on holiday in there's this kind of farms.
Yeah.
They exist kind of everywhere, and you can go there, buy the things directly. They basically cut the old transport preservation, they're there directly from the ground, and you pick it up. This, of course, is an advantage if you live in a smaller means, but if you live in a city, the thing you can do to be more engaged and go directly is to research farms that actually search for some workers that are seasonal, and just for a couple of days. Sometimes you can do like, you can go to the farm, they give you they allow you to stay over, and you work for like maybe 3 or 4 days. And other times you go like once a month, and in other models you can work like 1 week every 3 months. There's different models. And these farms, they will give you basically a basket of goods every week, and every month others. This always depends on the farm, but there are some farms are doing that. I haven't done it myself, unfortunately, but I have friends that used to do it in Berlin. I had some also in Paris that were doing that, and this is an active way of being engaged.
This is amazing.
You actually have the power to do it yourself and understand how things are made, and this is also nice.
Yeah, because you also participate in the whole process.
Yeah. You participate and you have the fruit of your labor,
Exactly.
Like, you understand what things are weighed, like.
It's an amazing idea. Oh, now I want to do it, try it myself.
Yeah.
Because of course you get more involved in the whole thing, and then make sense everything. Why you getting this result. Do you see any regional patterns in the sustainable food movement?
Yeah, so I mean, you mean like regional, if it's different in every region?
Yeah.
Or yeah, I do. So basically I would divide the occidentalized world in two. Okay, there's like like, I would say examples I have. I don't want to like make too much direct judge on it, but like basically I would see that countries like the US or UK or Germany that have a tendency to like massify things, they're still doing sustainability as a concept that is linked to capitalism hand by hand, like they basically have big chains in charge to sell products that are according to a sustainable way of doing things, and that are organic. And in this sense, I think the approach is kind of similar, because the image that they have, it might be neat and more trustworthy, but it's still a huge chain in a huge country, so in this sense, like, it's kind of the evil twin of the supermarket, but the angel twin of the supermarket. It's like, it's a supermarket, but it's nice, but it smells good and things look nice, and it still uses a lot of transportation, and it still tries to get the most money it can from you,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So then in other countries, I would say like also smaller countries and some bigger ones, like here, for example, I would say that it's maybe less. I would just say the ones I know, because I know some tendencies like in France and Italy, that is to, I mean, the sustainable is still linked with kind of history and culture, because before the wars I mentioned, like people were eating in a sustainable way, you know what I mean? Like because they were in a smaller place, they were getting the things from where they were, and they were avoiding this over commercialization of things.
Yeah.
And in this sense, this was already there, you know?
Yeah.
Of course, what was not there back then was also to do some processed things, not in a factory way, but like, you know, processed meats, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, of course, it's not sustainable, especially if we increase the population of the world by 3 times more since like 70 years. So in this sense, we cannot do these things anymore, at least in this quantity. So yeah, it's closer to at least the model from before, this model, because in these countries they still exist the small shops with things to sell out. Like in Spain, I'm sure also there is some of these things, especially in these cities that that people go now, and they have the tendency to like make things easier for the consumer, but also without making huge surfaces, because they also don't have too much space to put a lot of big supermarkets.
That's the
And in that sense, we have like small shops that are specialized in things, and it's also cultural, you know. But also from a country, for example, like I said before, or US or Germany, is more complicated to put this, because it was not there in the first place, you know. Like it was never a thing to go to these individual small little shops to buy things and directly from the farm. There are countries also that are urbanized since way earlier than the others. So yeah.
It's true, because you know when I used to live in Lithuania and I was a kid, I just remember the only place where you would buy the vegetables or meat or everything, it was just the market. You go to the local market where all the farmers are, and or the small shops, and later, of course, with the whole consumerism wave came all of the supermarkets, and in these countries they're still existing this idea, as you say, like still idea to go to the markets, to communicate with the people, to get this relation. Maybe you came once, you will come another time and stuff, and
Exactly.
it's important to keep this thing. Many people, including myself, are advocating a move toward more plant-based diets. What is your opinion about that?
So I agree, of course. I think what I concess, as with every diet, is the same things as I've said till now. You should just like privilege like mostly raw matters and not super processed things. I sometimes have the idea that some alternatives, especially because these people are now seen as a market too, for the capitalistic approach I said before, is basically to try to sell them a lot of already made combinations and things that facilitate their life, because it's a model that people have to take effort, you know. And this they have to be conscious, like it's an effort you will make because you're going in an alternative way that will not be nutritionally the same. So you have to do things have to be replaced, and you have to take supplements aside, and all of these things together. And this is an active work from your side, you know. You cannot be lazy in this. It's like you should do it, but you should do it consciously. And consciously is to do whatever I also said before. It's like avoid things that are processed, that have to be transported, that have to be spread, avoid big chains, all of this. And also think in the same way, like with the seasons, but without the meat, you know. It's like for example, if you live in Mexico or in like the north of South America, it's all fine to get avocado every day, or to get Brazil nuts or these kind of things. But if you live in Europe if you live, for example, in Southern Europe,
Mm,
you have to privilege, if I'm saying this, in things that you buy daily, okay, not in
mm,
things that you buy once in a while. This is
mm,
irrelevant. Like, it's fine to buy some things that are exotic once in a while,
mm.
because you don't have to do it like constantly, and you don't affect the chain.
No,
But like I said, if you have to eat nuts every day, for example, you cannot eat every day the Brazil nuts. Like, you have
of
to, if you're
course.
in Southern Europe, you eat almonds because they're everywhere. And you also eat the derivatives from that, like the almond drink and all of these things. And you don't privilege things that are from somewhere else, as if you are in Germany or France. Maybe almonds are not like everywhere, and you have to eat more hazelnuts or things that are more like walnut, things that are actually in your environment. And like this, you can link both concepts. You can link the concept of a plant-based diet with a sustainable one. And
Mm.
in this way, you finally achieve, which I believe to be the principle from the beginning for at least a big part of the people that change this.
Yeah,
And I think it is important. It's important to also have fun, as besides all of this, have fun. And the fun comes, as I said, from the transformation, from using the
exactly.
things that are around you. And this is what I mean. Like, it's positive, of course. Like, we all know the impact that eating meat, especially big animals, red meat, all of this, as in the emissions and the fields for agriculture and all of that it's not a positive thing at all. So if the solution you find for this is to have a plant-based diet, you should basically privilege the same principles, which is like, don't use, like, the thing is, like, with every diet, as with meat, that you eat too many people the same thing, which I would say in meat, for example, you have these like processed meats or beef cuts, or things that are like occupying a lot of space in general, and with actually no need. It's
No.
like, you don't need me to choose million things. Like, you can, with the same things, do so many different things. Like, you don't need to, I want this and I want that. And this goes again with capitalism.
Yeah.
As in, for example, in a plant diet, you don't need a million nuts around. Like, you need like two or three things that you do in different ways, and they will still replace nutritionally the absence of the animal proteins and some of the other vitamins, but at least they are also like making yourself not demand too much for the same people.
Yeah, I
That's it.
think the most important is just if you follow any diet, not to follow blindly
Yeah,
without even really
you have to
doing the
understand you live in a capitalistic world, and people will want money from you, like, they will want money by selling you everything. Like, they will sell you, this is healthy. And as I was saying before, now it's with this kind of diets, but back then, when there was not this kind of diets being prevalent in society, it was with the other diets. They were
of
saying
course,
food that was pre-made in a can, it was healthy and
of
nice,
course.
like, and people were believing it.
Yeah, the
And
thing is that the person would not just follow like a stupid one, but just do the research himself about
yeah,
how much I need calories a day to
yeah.
eat the
And as
meal.
I said, now this is facilitated nowadays because you have internet, and you have internet not just at home, you have it everywhere. So even if you're in the supermarket, you can check
Yeah, and
how
like
things are. And
exactly. And through this researches and checking yourself, you can also creating your value system, what is good and what is bad for you. And then you're not just blindly following, okay, I'm not gonna eat meat. No, but check why I'm not gonna eat meat.
yeah,
Why is wrong? Or like, for me, when I switched to the plant-based diet, I one of the few things what was hard for me to put aside was a honey,
yeah,
because I just clearly knew the healing part of the honey itself,
yeah,
because for years I was singer and I always had the problems with my throat before some
yeah,
big concerts, and this was the one of the remedies which always saved my
yeah,
ass all the time. And took me a while to really do the big research about that, how the bees are treated through the whole process, to maybe put aside. But that what I mean is you don't have to like fully follow some diets or some movements without even checking anything. Check yourself. Have your own opinion about things. Check what is the pros and cons of these things, and how does it done? If there is any options, alternatives for that, you know. And
it takes work. It takes work. You cannot like lazily follow something, you know. You have to understand, especially if the movement is serious, you know, if it's like something that has a meaning. You should really know your meaning, and you should really fight for it, you know. Like it's like you cannot in between go in the sense of like, I will just buy everything they sell me because it's nice, because it's according to this. No, like people will trick you. They're not like there to, we're gonna help everyone now. Nobody wants to help anyone, you know. Like it's a very pessimistic view, but in what concerns business is like that, you know. Like it's like, it's not a place where people want to like particularly help, except if you see that they don't get a huge amount of profit of that for that moment. Then you can privilege this because it's it's actually caring about something. So it's positive.
Yeah, because there are also many people who is, for example, on the plant-based diet, and they are completely unhealthy because they are eating again the processed food. They're going to this big bio supermarkets, and they're buying just the processed food and living from those steaks of the soya or something. And it's like, come on, the switching to this diet doesn't mean that you just don't eat meat and the milk products. It means that
it's also,
you start cooking yourself.
You have to understand what you go into.
And like knowing how many calories do you need, how much fat do you need, you know, and all of these things. And of course, not everyone can know this stuff, but just please, people, do a bit of research about everything and don't eat everything without thinking. Because I mean, at the moment I'm doing the vegan nutritionist certification, and with every day I'm learning more and more things, and I'm thinking that actually people are not educated food wise at all in a life. No one is saying these things, you know. You have to find out yourself if you want only.
Exactly.
So the one of the last questions in this direction about sustainability is the big question that is often asked is whether sustainable farming can be economically beneficial to both the farmer and the consumer. Do you see a time when these things go hand in hand at some point?
I mean, I think more and more we are going in this direction because we kind of understanding that like part of the capitalistic system is falling apart.
Yeah.
So we need another model that avoids this, because this soon will be like bankruptcy. Maybe not now, maybe not in 10 years, I don't know when. But there are alternative models, you know, and I'm not saying these alternative models will become the main model, but they are existing more and more. And I think with the farmers also earning money and the consumer avoiding to spend too much money, this is something that is getting more privileged. And this is getting privileged in the way that you will cut the transport and the preservation, you know. As I said before, you have to cut the in-between. What is in between the consumer and the farmer? If you cut all of that, you approach them. And if you approach them, you also economically avoid expenses. Because when you buy a product, you just don't buy the product. That's the thing. You buy the product plus the transport, plus the preservation, plus the seller that is in the shop, plus the, you know, if you buy it directly, or at least through a non-expensive means, you know, like a temporary infrastructure, like a market, or a small shop that you know that doesn't pay too much rent, or if you have the opportunity to go to the farm. In this sense, like these are models that are more and more prevailing now. And before, maybe you would need a car drive of like half an hour. And now maybe it's in your quarter, a market once a week, you know. It's like, it's slowly going there, but I don't know. But I would say soon it will be easier.
It takes time.
It takes time, yeah.
Like with everything.
With everything. It takes time also for people to understand that the problem is that the human has the tendency to understand things only when he feels menaced, you know, like And with the food, the menace is diseases. So like the more disease you get, the more you understand that you have to change something.
Yeah.
And this change will come in these shapes, and it will not come in the active changing shape of the person themselves itself. It will come in change of like the system. And the system is changing in this way, in the way that like you are cutting in between things. Like
yeah, it's true. Like when the person is getting affected physically or health wise, then the person starts only thinking about what is eating, how he's behaving, the lifestyle, and so on, so on.
Exactly.
All the humans
And
are
it is
like
also
that.
you see it comes a lot with age because of this reason. It's not because you're just wiser. It comes because you start feeling things in your body, you know, like your body starts changing, you start getting more tired, you start getting more effects from the things you eat. You know, if you eat crap, you will feel crap. And it's like,
of course,
in this sense that people more and more when they get older, they search for alternative models, and also these models start appearing because there's this research. So it's kind of like an offer and search kind of circle, you know, like things are existing because they're searched, and they're searched because they are more and more there, you know, like.
And hopefully in the future we'll have even more things clear about this topic, so we can even speak more about that.
Exactly.
So now I have the last 3 questions, which I ask all the time to my guests. First question is, what does your morning routine look like?
So I'm not like a super exciting role model, but so I usually wake up early. Like,
when is early for you?
Like 7 to 8.
Okay.
And I usually eat directly, and I eat something light like a granola. Like if I have fruits, better. If not, just a granola. After this, like I see a bit the news for 5 minutes, and if I have to work, I will have to work. If not, I will basically read a novel. Like for a while, I like to read in the morning. And after this, if I can, and preferably in pre-pandemic times, because now as we have curfew in Paris, it changed a bit this routine, but I would do sport. And yeah, that's my morning. If I would have to work, I would have to work, and my work would consist again in going to suppliers, check for things to buy, or if I would go directly to cook. Yeah, that's it.
And what book have you recommended the most?
The Wind Up Birth Chronicle from Haruki Murakami.
What is about? I think I have to buy it.
Yes, it's very mixed. It's a very big book, because actually I think it's 3 books in one, but it's sold as one. So, but it's kind of so it has a main character that basically everything is falling from his life. Is like finishing a marriage, but this is subtle in the beginning. You understand it with the continuation of the book, and is at the same time a detective story, but also a self-search for answers from like phantoms from all the actions that you've taken in the past. And it gives a lot of historical insight too from the past of Japan, which is very interesting. And at the same time is just Haruki Murakami. It's like always with bizarre characters everywhere. Every character different from the precedent one, and the way that the narrative is constructed is very appealing and very addictive. And somehow I advise it a lot to people, because I think first it distracts you from yourself, but second it catches you up after because you think a lot about without noticing. So I like it a lot for this, and also for the way it's written itself. I think it's a kind of masterpiece. So
I will have a look. I will check it afterwards. And what are you currently most passionate about?
I think it's not a super healthy thing to be passionate about, but natural wine in moderation.
Yeah.
So I like a lot to discover new ones, you know, like and lately has been a bit my passion. Other things are the videos I'm doing, but I cannot say I'm passionate in editing because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a process, as you
Yeah.
know. But in making the videos, I like the whole process of like making things, basically the aesthetics of it, and the whole process. Also, it's a different approach to work. You know, is work for myself, so
Yeah.
it's kind of nice not to have to work for money or something like
Exactly.
more stressful.
And the most nicest part is seeing the final result,
Yeah,
going through the process and seeing the final result.
yeah.
Oh, we had a beautiful talk, João. We spread a lot of information now to the people. Everyone will have to consume.
Yeah.
um, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
too. I
for.
hope I helped with this, and it was very nice. Thank you for inviting me. It's always nice to talk about these topics.
Yeah, and especially now in this situation as we are in these lockdowns, and
Yeah,
I really hope that this inspire many people to finally start cooking more at home.
yeah. I
Start,
definitely think it was a turning point. I think it's something that may be seen as I mean, it was a very negative situation all in all, but
yeah,
one of the few positive outcomes was this: people were forced to eat what they cook mostly.
yeah,
Because at
yeah,
some point things were closed also, and
yeah,
they have to learn some things, and there's more information to learn anyway. If they didn't have the chance, they can have now.
yeah,
And also, one of the things is also what I told you before: when you get negative physical consequences, like people, they couldn't do sport, they couldn't move, they couldn't do any, so they have to take care of what they eat, like they cannot just eat whatever and go impune with that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, yes, we many people are crying or suffering from what is happening right now since 1 year. But I also say that this is the perfect pause button for us because maybe we didn't have chance before to do the bigger research about what we eat and to learn new exercising or to learn, I don't know, the meditation or mindfulness or anything,
Yeah,
So it's like a perfect chance for us to actually do it,
exactly. You can
learn
focus
it,
on things
do
that
it.
will make you actually be better with yourself, and that will be the opposite of this whole situation, like something
Yeah,
that you need to search a refuge. Also, you need to know yourself, you need to be stronger, and in this sense, all of this will help you.
exactly. Because, well, now it's not easy, but maybe in the future will be even less easier than there is now. So we
Yeah,
have to be strong. We have to
yeah,
be ready
for
for
sure.
anything it comes
This is not
afterwards.
just a one-time thing, it's like something that maybe
Yeah,
changed a bit the society, and we have
yeah,
to be aware that things can go down low, and
yeah. And if it shakes you for the reason. Maybe there
yeah.
is something to change inside in you. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who was watching this episode, this video on my YouTube channel. If you want to get more tips about yoga, mindfulness, meditation, nutrition, or self awareness, you can subscribe to OneMindZone.com newsletter. And when you subscribe, you will receive a free mindfulness challenge. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel and receive notifications as soon as new episode is published. And yes, I'm very happy that I had Joao today, and
I'm
I'm
happy to
sure
thank.
you learned everyone so many good things. And if you want to check his works, as I said in the beginning, I will put down in the description of the YouTube video his website, his channels to the YouTube and Instagram. And yes, stay healthy, stay safe, and see you next time.